Welcome to today's session. My name is Denise Peterson. I'm the Director of Federal Industry Analysis here at Deltek. And today I'll be talking to Alex Rossino, Principal Research Analyst, about the federal transition to the cloud. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thanks very much.
So we've been hearing a lot in the past few years about cloud computing and the benefits to the federal government to meet their IT needs. How successful have they actually been transitioning to the cloud?
Well, there have been pockets of success, and those pockets are progressing. So there's a nice baseline that's forming here in the market. We keep a database here at Deltek of cloud computing efforts, awarded contracts, and also advertised efforts. And according to that database, the total awarded contract value for contracts in FY 2010 across the federal government was $743 million. So by the time that FY 13 was closed, that had risen to $17.8 billion. So again, that's not spending, to make sure to clarify here, that's not contract spending, but it is contract of value. So there's a potential for spending at those levels. And then already in FY 14, we're seeing that $229 million has been awarded for in contracts for cloud computing services. Now, that's only for Q1 because the Department of Defense, for example, they have a 90-day lag in reporting of data. So we only have the first quarters of data there. So it's really starting out as a promising year, even despite the downturn in the budgetary situation. Concerning exactly how the agencies are using the cloud, they've really been dipping their toes into a lot of software as a service products. So providing email and SharePoint and hosting web portals and things like that. The other thing is as infrastructure. We've noticed a real interest among federal agencies in having cloud-based infrastructure that vendors provide. And so there's really going to be a demand for that, we think, moving forward.
So what contractors, I think, really want to know is how are agencies going about buying cloud services?
Right. So they're using a variety of different ways to do this. They're using full and open competitions, small business set-asides, GSA Schedule 70, GWACs, and multiple award IDIQ contracts. These are all things that everyone would expect to see. However, we've noticed that the majority of the awards are really going through government-wide acquisition vehicles, or GWACs, as I mentioned, especially the Alliant large business and small business GWACs. They seem to be having a lot of activity go through them. So it's really the GWACs and the MAIDIQ vehicles. So it's important to get on those if you're a vendor, and then also to make use of your Schedule 70 to advertise your cloud services and offerings.
Right, so it sounds like the procurement vehicles are starting to open up to provide these services, but I'm sure the transition to the cloud doesn't come without its challenges, when it comes to the technology. So what kind of obstacles are agencies facing as they try to make that switch? Right,
sure. Well, agencies, really what they're facing right now is identifying what kind of applications they think that they can move to the cloud, or how they can use cloud computing. The reason being that there's a lot of data that agencies have. I mean, just think about it. Social Security Agency has all of our Social Security numbers, and IRS has all of our financial data, and different agencies have a lot of different data about us. So in order to protect the data, they're really not sure, they're still a little hesitant about putting that into a commercial environment, simply because it's their responsibility to be good stewards of the data. And if there was some kind of a catastrophic data breach using a commercial cloud provider, the agency would lose all credibility in the face of the American public, and that wouldn't be good. So I think that's really the biggest challenge. The other challenge is really technological. There's not a clear understanding really of how to go about utilizing cloud services, how to write agreements for them, or what are called service level agreements for them. So agencies really struggle with understanding, how is this different from other kind of services that I've received from vendors in the past? And then also, how do I take my 30-year-old or 25-year-old legacy system, which is based on a mainframe computer, how do I move that or transition that to a cloud environment? These are really complicated questions and issues. So what agencies are doing is they're asking vendors for help. So we're seeing procurement of cloud consulting and what we call cloud strategy or cloud enabling efforts, which is a vendor will be brought in and an agency will ask, well, we have X application and we would like to move it to the cloud. How do we do it? To help us understand what needs to be done and what the parameters are so that we can move the application.
So it sounds like there's definitely opportunities there for contractors from the beginning stages of planning into actual technology migration. And because of that, it seems like there are many contractors that have placed some pretty high bets on this market. Do you believe that the market will continue to grow over the next few years?
Yeah, I think the bets are well founded. We're going to see considerable growth in the cloud market, especially because agencies are starting to understand the value proposition to using cloud. It's just a less expensive way of going about getting the same kind of services that you used to get or that you used to provide on your own via your own IT services department, but that can be provided by a vendor, usually at a much lower cost with higher security and with a flexibility to scale the solution to what it is that you need, your effort. For example, like the census. In 2020, they'll need to really scale up their effort or their computing resources to make sure to capture all the information. So they'll need to use the cloud or turn to the cloud because it's ideal for something like that. So here at Deltek, we're forecasting that the market will grow from what we see as a current spend in FY14 as $2.2 billion to about $6.15 billion by fiscal 18. So that's a considerable growth, and in a market where the overall number of dollars is shrinking, that's an area where vendors can't afford not to be. You really need to have a cloud offering.
All right, it sounds like cloud is a growing market with lots of opportunity. Thank you for joining us today, Alex.
Thanks.